Hi, this is Dave Stagl from going211.com. One of the big things I get asked to demonstrate when I'm doing live sound mixing workshops and consulting is how to EQ drums and specifically how to EQ toms. So today I want to show you an approach to EQing toms. This isn't necessarily the way to do it, but it's a way, and most drummers get pretty happy with the results I get from following this approach. I use a similar approach when I'm EQing really any kind of drum. A snare drum I do a little bit different, but it's really kind of the same kind of thing. So I have a tom recording here and I'm just looping it, and if I was doing this live I would have a drummer playing quarter notes so that I could focus in on just the drum. And I'm just gonna use this EQ plugin today. When I do this live, I just use the console EQ. It really doesn't matter what you use. It's the same approach regardless of what specific EQ you're using. Couple of little things to keep in mind. First and foremost, you have to have a decent sounding drum that's in tune, and a decent mic put in the right place, and of course a really good drummer. So the better all that stuff can be, the better off you'll be to begin with. This particular tom, here, let's listen to it. So I picked this one because it's not necessarily the greatest tom in the world. I think this was from a gig I did in the last 4 to 5 months, and most of the people who are reading my articles, I know you guys don't all have the greatest drums or the greatest drummers in the world, so I picked this one that's kind of average so that we can see what we can do with an average one, or maybe even a little above average. But this one, it's definitely usable, and I think we can make it some better. So let's listen to it a little bit. The first thing I want to do with a tom is I want to kind of clean up some of the muck and the garbage in it. Drums are basically boxes, although we usually don't want them to sound like boxes. And when we close mic them, the proximity effect of the mic just kind of turns up that boxiness, because that boxiness is in the low mids, typically in the 400 to 500 hertz range. But you just have to kind of listen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter in, and I'm just going to boost and kind of go fishing around to find the stuff I really don't like, and then we're going to knock it out. And for this kind of stuff, I usually start above the area where I'm going to go down to. So I start above, and I'm going to sweep down. So, and I'm going to narrow this a little bit. So I hate this stuff. So I'm just going to dump this and we'll see what we get. So here's without it. There's with it. So let's listen to what exactly it is that I took out. So it's that kind of stuff, just this kind of boxy stuff. If I go a little higher, this stuff's okay. And not crazy about that. But this is really the stuff I don't like. See, we're even a little bit below 400 on this filter. So probably right around here. One of the things I tell guys in terms of how much should you cut out, it just kind of depends on how in vogue is indie rock right now, because a lot of that stuff, to me it's boxy, to other people it's organic. So you just have to use your taste and take out as much as you want to take out, or as much as you need. So that's step one. Next step for me, I like the toms to sound as pure and to have as much tone as possible. So I'm going to boost a little bit at the fundamental frequency. And the fundamental is basically the note of the drum, and it's going to be probably the lowest frequency of the drum, or the lowest good one anyways. So I'm just gonna put a filter in and boost it up, and we'll go narrow. And for this, I start low and sweep high. So I'm just gonna listen to when it starts to sing. You can hear it starting down in here. It's right around in here. See, this is too high. That's too low. So maybe right around there. Let's solo that. So you can really hear it kind of resonating and sustaining. So I'll go right there, and we'll go a little wider. So let's go back. That's what we started with. That's where we're at right now. You know, even just turning that filter off, I mean, that right there starts to sound more like a tom versus everything off. Now that's just the cut, and now there's that boost. If we just boost and turn the cut off, see, it kind of starts bringing up some of this stuff in here, which I don't like. I could narrow this down, but I like going kind of wide, because if the drums aren't quite in tune, or sometimes they might descend in frequency, or the note might fall, then I can catch everything and boost it all up. So, all right, there we're at. That's pretty good right there. One thing with drums, like the last thing that's kind of real important, is the attack of the drums, the snap, the smack. Listening to this on its own, I kind of feel like it might have enough, but within the context of a mix, some of that stuff might get lost. So I'm just going to boost a little bit up. I'm going to actually use a shelf for this. So I'll do something like that probably. That might be... That's without it. With it, that might be a little too much. One thing with shelves, when you add them in on a lot of digital consoles, they kind of look like this, or maybe like that, but you end up with a really steep slope, and that's not what I want. I want this more gentle kind of slope. We don't necessarily have to use a shelf, though. We could use just a peak bell-shaped filter, and that stuff, it's usually around 5. 5 is usually the clicky. There, let's go narrow. Sometimes down in here, in fact, I might want that more. So there's no boost up top. Here's the shelf. Here's just that peak. Either way, sometimes, a lot of times I just use the parametric like that. So a few different ways. Shelf, I like the shelf because it's a little faster and easier, and you just go gentle and just kind of sweep it down, fish around until it sounds good. So here's what we started with. And there's our tom. So I hope that helps. If you want to find out more about mixing drums and mixing in general, I do workshops all the time, especially for churches. You can find out more about those at my website, goingto11.com. If you click on the training and consulting link at the top, there should be a list up there for all of my workshops, and you can find out more about some of those and contact me if you'd like to schedule one. Thanks. Hope it helped.